Hello everyone, my name is Beatrice and I welcome you back to my Journey Faithful Compassion Hub. It's been a little while since I last posted and I've really missed sharing with you all. Life has been busy and I'm excited to be back with more insights and teachings from Harold Clem on spiritual and personal growth. Today I'm excited to share my thoughts on a powerful teaching by Harold Clem that dives into the concept of divine wisdom and the lessons we learn from the people in our lives. This is not just about one religion. It's a universal truth that can help anyone on their spiritual journey. In this talk, Harold Clem emphasizes that everyone we encounter has something to teach us. Now, let's open our hearts to listen to this story. Let's not rush to respond, but pause and ask yourself, what have you learned from this story?
Of God.
I should explain the foolish of God just a bit. Everyone else is foolish but us. We're wise, considerate, kind, all-knowing, and the other guy is foolish. Not all the time, but often enough that we can recognize a problem when we see it. The foolish of God. But the fact is, God puts those people in our path whom we need to bump shoulders with. The people in our life are those who need to be there for our spiritual unfolding. And as soon as we can learn the lesson that a particular individual in a given time and place has to teach us, and we've made the adjustments inside ourselves, then we may go on to a new spiritual lesson. So this is good because sometimes the act or the Holy Spirit bumps us out of our grooves. It says, all right, so you've got everything planned according to your very clever planning with that little mind of yours about the size of an ant. So you have it all planned out, do you? We smile and we say, of course. And then the Holy Spirit shakes the dice and throws them down and says, now what you going to do with this? And you're caught totally off guard and you say, with this? And then you do the best you can given the time that remains. What it usually means is that you end up letting one thing go. Maybe more than one time. Maybe within 3 minutes, each minute of those 3 minutes, you've had to let one thing go. You find out what's really necessary. Well, that's how it is. The foolish of God. We are all foolish when we set ourselves against the divine order and the divine plan. The thing is that often we don't know we're doing that. God and anything holy is very much removed from our daily life. I mean, after all, we've got to get to work. You know, it's 20 minutes and I've got to get to work. Okay, and then you get there and what do you find on the freeway? Traffic's backed up. So you finally get closer and closer to work and on, then you get to work and just every little thing seems to be going against you that day. No, life is a trade-off. But nowhere in it very often is there room for God. Now I say this especially today because the market's up. Has been up. Well, it's been sliding now. Here in the United States, anyway. And so, since maybe 50% of the working families have some stake in the stock market, it's almost as if people's God has become mammon. Not the true God, but another false God. But again, what would you expect of the foolish of God? And that's how we make our way through life, not just one life, but many lifetimes. Stubbing our toes, bumping into the doorpost because we didn't quite aim right. And so what does Eckankar offer? I often think about this and mention it all too seldom. Whatever happens today, whether it's wrong in our mind or right, will happen again tomorrow. Not exactly the same, but it'll rhyme. Sort of like it. Sort of like the right word, but it's not quite it. But yet it all works together to make something harmonious. But what about this life as compared to last life? Is it any different from today, as today is different from yesterday or tomorrow? And how long will this go on? How long? How long? How long? You see, we have it fairly good in some of our places. There isn't the destruction of war and the upheavals of a sort that destroys houses and buildings and people on a great level, where thousands are done in at once. No, it's a different society, and we say, well, it's a pretty good life. One life, that's it, I'm out of here. But it's not that way. There are more people in the world who have an understanding of reincarnation and karma than do not.
Highlights that the people we meet are not just random figures in our life. They are essential for our spiritual unfolding. Every relationship, whether pleasing or challenging, serves a purpose. Recognizing this can help us see beyond our frustrations and understand that each interaction is an opportunity for growth. He talks about the foolishness of God, where our limited understanding can lead us to overlook the divine wisdom in our circumstances. The idea of reincarnation arises in this talk, and he explains that we carry our lessons across lifetime and allowing us to learn and evolve continuously. This perspective can shift our understanding of life hardships, revealing them as experiences necessary for spiritual development. Finally, Harold Klemp encourages us to embrace the lessons we learn from others regardless of our backgrounds. This is about recognizing that wisdom can come from unexpected places. It invites us to let go of prejudices and judgments, fostering compassion and understanding in our interactions.
Now, this is a shock to us perhaps in a Christian society, because everything in a society such as our own is that one life here and the rest of eternity there. But there are some of you who know in your heart, and not just hold as a belief in your mind, that there is something more to this scheme of life. There must be a reason why some people are born poor. There must be a reason, as one Chela once said, one Chela, or student of Eckankar, when he was exposed to Gandhi of India, he said, well, it can't be that anyone who is not Christian is damned. Look at this good man Gandhi. He cannot be damned for all eternity, simply because he grew up in a different culture. Would God be so unmerciful and so cruel? Some say yes, and some say no. And what do you think? Well, the foolish of God. This is the story of someone I'll call Bennett to protect his privacy. He grew up in Africa, lived in Europe for a bit, came to the United States. When he came here, he was living in New York City, and he was very disappointed with American women. He thought they were shallow. He thought they lacked, well, this is the right place to give a talk like this, to the Chilas of Europe and of Africa. And he thought, well, the women in America were shallow, probably because he wasn't getting anywhere with them. So one day, on the street, he meets a friend and he expresses this opinion to his friend, and he told his friend, he says, how could anybody want to become friends with an American woman? They have nothing to offer. And his friend said, all people we meet have something to teach us, if we would but learn. And so he was thinking about this for quite a while, and he accepted it, and he realized that it was so. That all the people around us are there to teach us something. And that often we come from a certain culture with certain trappings, certain beliefs, certain taboos, and we bring all our baggage with us when we go to another country. And suddenly we expect that everybody there should do things the way we do. And we, the foolish of God, think that's perfectly normal. That a whole country should bend and do things our way. That's like an American who goes to France and he expects the French waiter to speak English to him. I have news for him. If you grow up in a family with a lot of kids and you get into hitting each other, and a parent comes along and tries to separate this out and find out who's at fault, and you begin pointing fingers and you say, he started it. And of course that works until your brother points back and he says, I did not. He started it. And then it starts all over again. Well, that's what happens lifetime after lifetime too. In this life we rub someone the wrong way, they rub us the wrong way. Now, it's really not important whatever rubs someone else wrong. But what is important is what rubs me wrong. That's one part of karma. The other part is the things where everything is kind, harmonious, smooth, and good. Those are good things too. That also counts up in the Great Ledger book. And so when the accounting is done after this lifetime, the lords of karma look in the ledger and they say, let's see, he's going back to another lifetime because he hasn't learned how to get off the circle of reincarnation. But his ledger, he's done pretty good this lifetime. He's got some credits coming. And so this individual gets born into another life. Nice family, life of ease, all sort of good things, or if he values education or if he values a good family, he can have that. But for the other person, when the Lords of Karma look in the Great Ledger Book at the end of that lifetime, they tally it up and they say, why, this man has some debits. Well, then he may come back carrying a big burden on his shoulders. Other people will look at him and say, what an unfortunate person. Yes, unfortunate, it's true. Because what we fail to realize and do not want to realize, because it doesn't fit our thinking, is that perhaps for some spiritual reason, a person is born the way he is. Yeah, we're all born the way we are for a certain spiritual reason. And some students of the spiritual area have noted that probably about 95% of people are unhappy with the way they look. But the fact is, most of them have chosen pretty much whatever body form was available to them, according to the ledger, according to the credits and debits they had earned before. They're given a choice. They say, all right, you're the lucky one, even though you've got a debit in your ledger, you can have a choice of any one of 5 bodies, spread out over several decades in several different cultures. What do you want? So you pick one, you picked it. Of course, maybe it wasn't the greatest choice on earth, but then again, we are all the creatures of our own creation. I know these ideas are shocking to some. They'll say, that is not so. It cannot be so. And on a purely social scale, there are people who say, it can't be that this person was born with a disability because of some spiritual reason. Or let's just put it another way, it never enters their minds. When we see someone who is carrying a burden of a sort that most everyone isn't, just remember that even the people who seem to have no burdens at all, they're carrying burdens of another sort. These burdens are simply called karma. Cause and effect. And where does this stuff come from? From ourselves. At some point, we can wrap it up. We can be done with it. And get off the wheel of reincarnation and karma. Okay, and how is this done? Well, somewhere along the line, meaning the line of lifetimes, the individual must find someone who can hook him up with the voice of God. The voice of God in Ek we call the light and sound of God. This is the voice of God. The 2 aspects of the Ek, or the Holy Spirit, are light and sound. And there is a way to be hooked up with them. In Ekankar, it's during the 2nd initiation. This initiation comes after 2 years of study. 2 years of study of the Ek discourses. What this says is that it's a landmark, that this soul need never return to earth again. And for many people, this is fine. They'll say, if I can just get away from this earth and not have to come back to it ever again, I'll do whatever it takes. Of course, there's more to the equation. There are planes above the earth plane that still are subject to karma and reincarnation. And here I'm speaking of the astral, the causal, mental, and the etheric planes. But they're at a higher level. at a finer level than the experiences on the physical plane. In time, the earth-centered, self-centered human being will come to realize that there are people in the universe, in the physical universe, beside Earth. Of course, there have been reports of flying saucers for years, and this is one form of life from beyond Earth. There are many different forms. Some of the people who come from another place to Earth must use the lower vehicles of travel, spaceships. The higher spiritual beings, they come here by higher means, such as astral travel, for instance, or mind travel. That's another way to get around for those who have the ability. In Ekankar, we teach, as one of the aspects of the teachings of the Holy Spirit, soul travel. It simply means the ability to travel not just on the astral plane, the way astral travel allows. Astral travel lets you travel on the astral plane or anywhere below, meaning the physical plane. Then there's causal travel, and there's mental travel. Usually people who are able to do mind travel, is the other word for it, generally do it on the mental plane. And this is the area of where calculus, high math, the high forms of architecture, and the like are developed by the creative people here on Earth. This story is about a Baptist. This is the story of James. He grew up in the South, I believe. His family belonged to a very rigid Baptist denomination. Now, I say very rigid because it was, but I say this not with any sort of criticism, because every group will have its more understanding people as well as its very rigid people. And that's because the people who gather under the banner of one organization or another are still individuals. They're at all levels of a consciousness, of awareness, and they just gravitate to where they're most comfortable. So this boy grew up in this family because he had a lot to learn. The only contact he had with Ekankar was when he was a small boy. This was maybe in the early 70s, maybe the late 60s. And it wasn't in a very favorable light. One of his uncles was an Ekist. And his father had no use for that man because he mistreated his family. And so here I say too, this is not a person we are proud to call an Ekist, any more than certain people are the sort of person that the Baptist would like to say, this is one of ours, here, put him in the spotlight. No, because there are certain people who do not belong on a pedestal because of how they treat others. They treat others poorly. And so, people are people. Instead of judging someone by his religion, judge him by his behavior. Judge him not by his thoughts, but by his behavior. It used to be in Ekankar that some people would come to me before they learned better and they'd say, I had a dream about so-and-so. They were invading my space. Do something. I would just say, what has that person done to you out here? Nothing. Don't even see him, lives hundreds of miles away. Well, then handle it where the problem occurred. Go to the inner planes. Work it out there. I'm not an easy shoulder to cry on if there's no reason. But if there's a reason, I have a soft shoulder. So when the boy asked his father, who had very limited exposure to Ekankar except for the brother-in-law, the boy asked his father, what is Ekankar? Father said, it's soul travel and reincarnation. End of discussion. Well, of course, it's a lot more than that. It's a lot more than that. The teachings of Ak, as of any true religion, are about love. God's love for soul. All the good religions teach God's love for soul. But it boils down to how does any individual within that religion act? Does the person act from power or from love? You see, power's got a whole bunch of little things in the bag, like controlling others. People of power who get into a mindset of power, they like to control others. They like to have fame. They like people to notice them. They also like to be rich because it sets them apart from the rest. They also may like to carry their charity out in public, using other people's money, of course, because they feel it makes them more of a real human being. Somebody who feels the pain of others. It's just a lie. It's just a self-serving lie. Doesn't fool everybody else, although it may fool most everybody else. So those are the people of power, and then there are the people of love. They act with kindness and charity to all. They act this way with diplomacy, if possible, but if necessary, they will also defend their own. In other words, the people of love are not simply doves, but they are birds of the air. They can also be eagles and hawks. Depends upon what the situation calls for. In other words, they are well-balanced spiritual beings. May the blessings be. Thank you.
Harold's teaching reminds us of the profound lessons embedded to our daily interactions and experiences. By embracing the foolishness of God and recognizing the role of karma, we can open our hearts to the spiritual growth that lies ahead. Let's challenge ourselves to view our relationships through spiritual lens, asking ourselves what we can learn from every relationship we encounter. Remember, every moment is an opportunity to grow and evolve. We have reached the end of our lessons today. Thank you for joining me, and if you found this video enlightening, please like, share, and subscribe for more spiritual insights and personal growth. Together, let's continue this journey of understanding and compassion. I love you all. Goodbye.